All right, Skywing Falcon post-flights follow-up. That's what this video is about. We got some changes to make on the Falcon aircraft. This is the 2.1. We're gonna go over all of our final settings and the radio setup as well too in Jetty. So lots to cover in this video. We don't often get to do these follow-up videos, but because we have some changes to make and I wanna share all this information with you guys, I figured it would be valuable to do that. So we are rocking our Team CHR shirt, and the reason we're doing that is because I figured it was kind of fitting, seeing as this airplane was maidened in Texas and the Team CHR guys were there, and just want to give a shout out to them as well too. So thanks guys. Yeah, so we've got, I think I put 5 flights on this aircraft in Texas, and we did another 4 last weekend. So I probably have about 10 flights, I think. Maybe we did 6 in Texas, I don't know. Anyways, we've got 10 flights on this aircraft. It's flying well. I'm not flying it as good as the aircraft could be flown. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm not a crazy 3D guy yet, but enjoying the plane nonetheless. But we've got some changes to make. I want to share this stuff with you guys, so that's why we're here. All right, first big change is this. Thank you, Salim from Flight Composite Tech. The jewelry has arrived. So if you guys followed the assembly series on the Falcon aircrafts, we picked up a couple of these bladders in jet power for these aircraft, and they unfortunately were not the right size. And Salim sent us the right size bladders. So thank you so much for this. The jewelry is amazing, and I'm looking forward to putting this in the Falcon. So we've chatted with Salim a few times at Jet Power, and I gotta say, these fuel containment devices are amazing. The features are outstanding, and I love every aspect about this this bladder. So I've played around a little bit with these, and the filler fitting is amazing. It's got a bunch of channels in there, so it sucks the air out of those little channels. Just gorgeous. Serviceable clunk fitting as well too. We've got the fuel keeper fittings as well. So these are outstanding. The rod holders as well, so these slip in. You've got 8mm rod holders with an Allen key. I mean, it's just every aspect about this is amazing. So thank you, Salim, for these. Outstanding. I can't say enough about the quality of these bags, and they are amazing. So that's why we've got it filled with air, is I wanted to confirm that the shape and everything is correct, and we are good to go. So let me preface this. There is nothing wrong with the one that we put in there from our CFM. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. But when I put this plane together, I had my heart set on putting the FCT fuel bladder in this airplane, and that's what I wanted. So that's what's going in this aircraft. That's why we're making that change. So that's the first thing we're gonna swap out, is the bags. We're gonna put that bag in, and then I'm gonna go over all of our surface travels, radio setup, and how we got to where we're at. And let's take a minute and appreciate that beautiful Aries XL in the background. Oh, wait a sec. There's also an Aries L right there. Oh, wait a sec. And there's also an Aries Mini right there. Whew. All right, so then to finalize the video, we'll get into the Jetty programming portion, and we'll cover all the details of the radio setup and how we've got it set up, and we'll take a look at some of our items on the aircraft. So step number 1, we're gonna put the new bladder in the aircraft. Step number 2, we're gonna assemble the aircraft with wings and tail surfaces and everything. Step 3, we're going to cover all of the surface travels that we have in all the different flight modes. Step 4, we're going to look at the radio setup and how we've got everything organized from radio to aircraft. So those are the 4 steps we're gonna cover. Let's go with step number 1. So there are many things that I really like about the fuel bladder systems, and there's a lot of positives. I really don't have any negatives. One of the best things is how quickly these things come in and out of the aircraft. So within a couple minutes, this thing was out nice and clean, simple, still nice, reusable, all that stuff. And yeah, it's great. So that's done. This is the replacement. So our width is very much the same on the deflated width. The inflated width is pretty much the same as well too. So anyways, that's the old one out, new one going in. All right, doesn't get much simpler than that. These FCT bags and the setup here, I love this setup with these little pieces that go in the end of the fuel containment device. So just such a slick unit. So the 8mm rod goes in there perfectly, has a little set screw, slips right in, works as a keeper. And then of course, all we do is add one more in this scenario, of course, because the way this is done, we just had one more keeper that we had in here before on the back side. So right now these rails are fixed. They're just going through the opening in the front, but there's no reason to put one on the front or anything like that. So super cool, that is awesome. So all we need to do now is run this right to the fuel pump in the front and get our filler hooked up. All right, so just adding some fuel to the bladder here just to check and see and make sure everything sits properly. I think it's a absolutely perfect fit. And yeah, it's pretty darn slick, that's for sure. Now I could have gone through our little holes in the former work here, but I figured I would leave it free moving just to keep things more simple. And the jewelry is installed. That is so perfect. I am so happy now that the right bag is in this aircraft. That makes me very happy. Because the fuel line has a potential of rubbing on this carbon fiber former here, I added some spiral wrap around that lead or tube which goes to the fuel pump. So that is all done, guys. That was an easy install. This is awesome, so happy. So we're going to take the fuel out, we'll put the cover plate back on, and there's really nothing to show in this area as far as the electronics and stuff go. Everything else is radio based. We covered it very well in the assembly series, but the single battery is perfection on this plane. So you'll see what battery we use, but there's another shot of the electronics equipment. So that's all installed. Get our cover plate back on, get fuel out. Then we'll move on to step number 2. All right, so Falcon is together, goes together very simply with the buttons, of course, on the wings and the tail surfaces. So we'll pull out the gauges now that come with the kit, and we'll check our travel for each of our surfaces. All right, so we'll check our surfaces now, and then we'll take a look at the radio for each of the surfaces. So we have the aileron set up here first with the gauge, and our dual rate menu is pretty much the same on all of our ailerons, but we'll take a look at all of them. So this is regular flying mode where we're gonna check our servo travels here. So
5 minutes.
As far as degrees go, we are about, I would say about 16 degrees, 15, 16 degrees. So yeah, 15 there. So we got 15 on our aileron. Okay guys, moving to the back end here, we've got elevator. So again, regular flying mode. We've got 15 degrees in both directions for regular flying mode. I'll show you while we're here our flap compensation. So this is takeoff flaps. And this is full flaps. So full flaps were probably 5, 6 degrees, if that's what it is. But at least there you can see the amount of compensation that's needed. So we'll check the rudder next. It doesn't really matter with the rudder surface because you're just getting max travel, but we are 30 degrees in both directions on the rudder. All right, looking at flaps here, so we'll put the gauge on there. So this is at the root of the wing, and we've got takeoff. So we're looking at about 16-ish degrees of flaps for takeoff. Now that number is just a number I picked. It looked good on the flap. Full flaps with pressure on the flap, we're sitting about 48 degrees of full flaps. Now this wing with the design, normally, let me take a step back. Normally on most sports jets, we want to get like 60-ish degrees of flaps. But with this wing design, with the full span ailerons being possible, you are limited with the amount of flap movement that you can get. So that brings up our crow setting. So when we go to landing flaps, you'll see that we have a decent amount of crow. Now I added this in so we're able to slow down, or we are able to add a little bit of resistance and air braking while we're coming in for a landing. So we have a fair bit of crow here, and I've got 10 millimeters of crow on the ailerons in full flap mode. So we'll take a look at some of the radio stuff now and the expo and travels and everything for those servo surfaces. Now, if you're wanting to see what servo arms we used, check out the assembly series, which is the other three or four videos in this, this series for that. Now, most of the servos we used the servo arms that come with the actual servos, the chaw servos. So, but for length and positioning and stuff, check that out. So just for reference here, this is our dual rate menu that is tied to our flight modes. So on this plane, we have 5 flight modes, actually 6, I guess, but we've got regular flying mode, takeoff mode, half flaps, full flaps, and we've also got vectors on, and hover mode. So you can see there, the dual rates are all staying very similar. The only thing I've added is a little bit more aileron control on full flaps, but everything else is the same. You'll see our expo, we're flying a Cortex in this plane, so we're using 30% expo everywhere, and then with gyro off, we've got 45% expo on everything. So that's the setup in the dual rate menu. And then also if we go to our actual servos themselves, so you can see here we've got things dropped down as well. So we're kind of doing a mix of servo travel and dual rate menu to get the right travel for this aircraft. So aileron 1, which is left ailerons 50-50 for normal travel, aileron 2 50-50, elevator 50-50, same thing on elevator 2, pitch, now this is our vectored nozzle up and down, sub-trimmed at 32, but we're 80 and 80, and yaw, which is vector side to side, sub-trimmed at 20 and 85-85. So that's our servo setup in the radio. So we'll take a look at the different flight modes and how it affects the plane in this next shot. So we've got essentially, we'll just go through the 5 different flight modes of this aircraft, and we will see how that affects the plane. It's more about the vectored nozzle though, is what actually happens. Now, I'm not saying that this method is right. It's just where we're at right now and how we have things working. All right, so we'll take a look at our 5 flight modes and how it affects how the plane works. So right now we are in regular flying mode. So in regular flying mode, our aileron works normal, elevator works normal. Sorry, now we're in regular flying mode. Aileron works normal, elevator works normal, rudder works normal. So that's all normal stuff. When we go to takeoff flaps, there's a little bit of elevator compensation, and that's all that happens. All of our control surfaces are still the same. So now when we go to landing flaps, you'll hear that the radio is going to start calling out our airspeed. So that's a feature that we have tied into our pitot tube, which is in the nose, but then you'll see that a lot more happens. So full flaps, our crow comes in, additional elevator compensation, but all of our travels and everything are still the same. So now we're back to normal flying mode, and we'll go to our vector. So vector, basically everything stays the same, you just have vector control now on the nozzle. So that's the only difference. And then when we go to hover mode, that stays the same thing, we just have a little bit more control on our nozzle. So I'm going to hold left rudder, or yaw, and we'll go between the vector on mode and hover mode. So there's a little bit more travel on the nozzle when that works. Now, when we're in our vector on mode, and gyro's on, of course, the vectored nozzle is gyro controlled or gyro compensated. Same thing when we go to hover mode. It of course gets even more active. So that is the general layout on the plane. Now let's see how we get to these different settings on the radio. All right, so let's go through some of our different setups here on our jetty system and this plane. So first thing we'll do is we'll go into our flight mode. So you can see here all of our different flight modes. So we've got default, which is normal flying. We've got takeoff, landing, vector on, and hover. So those are all of our flight modes that we've got on this plane. We already took a look at our dual rate menu, and we'll take a look at our gyro settings. So the gyro menu changes, or the gyro setting changes for each of the flight modes. So in regular flying mode, we're at -40%. On Cortex, this is the amber or yellow bank. Takeoff flaps, we're at -60%. Full flaps, -75%. Now if we go back to regular flying mode and we go to vector, you'll see we're at +50%. So this is the bright green bank of the gyro, which by default has heading hold on it. You don't want to fly with heading hold on. When we go to hover mode, it's 100% on the gain. So now let's go to the Cortex menu and see how that works. So from there, we'll start from our main screen. We're going to go Model, Device Explorer, Cortex Pro, and you can see our settings here. So we've got servo type 166, single RX. Now if we go into our individual banks, okay, so we've got our yellow bank and our green bank. So if we go to aileron on the yellow bank, this is our normal flying. We've got norm and there's our settings there. Elevator is going to be very much the same. Rudder, very much the same. Now by default, when you first set up a Cortex, the green bank, which you don't want to generally fly in, is going to have hold on. So we've gone in and we've turned all the holds off. But what this other bank allows us to do is to have control over what those tail surfaces or nozzle surfaces do. So when we're in the green bank, we can have those nozzle surfaces on. When we're in the yellow bank, we can have those nozzle surfaces off. Just going in here to show you the different settings. So now we've looked at the bank setup. If we go to the next menu, which is the single channel gain, this is where things get interesting. So yellow bank, our normal flying bank, we've got channels 5 and 6, which is our nozzle channels, down to 0. So that is what makes the nozzle not work in normal flying. 7 is rudder, all those other ones are other surfaces. When we go to our second bank, so we've got bank 1, okay, all the way down to channel 16. And then we've got bank 2, which is our green channel. That is the bright green channel, just like the color on your screen. This is where you see all of the outputs active. So channels 5 and 6 are at 100%. So when we're in the green bank, our vectored nozzle is working, which is here and here. When we're in the yellow bank, which is here, here, and here, we're in the yellow bank, which is our normal flying bank. So that is how we get those surfaces working in the Cortex. So that is our general layout with this jetty setup and the Falcon 2.1 meter aircraft. So a couple of the other things. I've seen a few people comment online about this. They've been putting together their Falcons. They had a big massive mound of batteries. It's nose heavy, etc., etc. Well, this along with many other planes, we run off of one battery. So if you're curious about this, watch the assembly series and I went into detail on how we wired this. Basically, this one 3-cell battery splits off essentially. One lead goes to the turbine system. The other lead goes to a jetty SPEC 30. That SPEC 30 regulates the power down to 8.4 volts all the time. That splits off and feeds our receiver and everything, also the landing gear. So because the SPEC or jetty SPEC is a jetty device, we can also go in here and look at the SPEC itself. So we can go into general settings, we can change the output voltage, telemetry, all that stuff. But when we are running the plane right now, it's 8.36 volts. When we're stirring everything, running everything, vectored nozzle on, it stays at a solid 8.3, 8.4 volts all the time. So our servos are always getting good, strong voltage. So that is how we've got this plane wired, and it works so well. You just make sure you use a good battery. We fly 2 flights. We always charge after flying those 2 flights. We're not putting a ton of power back in. So if I fly 2 flights, go to charge that battery, gosh, I might put like 600 milliamps back in, 700 milliamps, it's almost nothing. So we could fly probably 4 flights on that battery pack and be fine, but we just keep the same system all the time. All right, so CG wise, the airplane comes with a set of templates that you put on the wing tube and the anti-rotation tube. Now we balance these planes when we put them together with that template, and it worked out very well. I would say it's not tail heavy, not nose heavy. A lot of guys are commenting that the airplane is nose heavy with those templates. So when we go inverted with this plane, very little push. Now it could be more neutral, but that's where the weight layout comes in. So we did have to add some lead weights. That's added to the structure beside the nose here, but I added some removable weights right here. So these removable weights are easy to take out, and that allows us to be able to move the CG back without having to dig any of that other lead out. So I haven't felt the need yet to move that CG back, but it is possible, and I'm not sure how it relates to people that are commenting on the previous generations of this plane, whether it's a year and a half, a year ago, or whatever it is. So I know they have made some changes with the wiring and the little buttons that keep everything on. So, but overall, happy with the Falcon. So gobs of power with the 190 engine, no problem hovering at our elevation. So we're at 3,300 feet. So generally we get about a 15-20% reduction on a normal day out of our turbines, because when you go up to a higher elevation, you have less push from your turbines. So with a 190 though, when I'm hovering, I'm still about 60% throttle, and it's holding that no problem. With 100% throttle, it climbs like crazy. So great engine for this plane. I wouldn't go any smaller myself at our elevation, but if you're at sea level, you might be able to get away with like a 160 as long as you're doing like the fuel bag and building it a light style setup. So been very happy with this plane so far. The chaw servos have been perfect. Really excited for the new Flight Composite Tech fuel bladder. That's awesome. Skywing turbine's been working great. The other version of this plane, or the other plane, the twin to this one, has the Chikoi 195. That's been working great for David as well too. So overall, very happy with the Falcon aircraft. Looking forward to putting more flights on it. And also, it's fun to compare these planes as well too. You know, when you get the opportunity to fly a lot of different sports jets, it's kind of fun to feel the differences and be able to tell the differences between them. So as an example, we've got our Atom 2.1 meter or Lancer 2.1 meter plane, which had a 190 in it as well too. Was a fun aircraft. Very accurate, very true, a little bit slower flyer because the body was larger. You know, when I got the Falcon is more streamlined, more sleek, a little bit faster. Engine is very much the same, well, engine's the same engine, and two totally different planes, and both are fun, but it's nice to be able to fly lots of different sports jets and be able to compare them and really pick and choose on the features you like with certain sports jets. So I compare the Falcon a lot to my Picaro, which is this guy right here from Elite Aerosports. Now the Picaro is built way stronger than the Falcon, so there's nothing that this thing can't handle, but the plane handles very much the same as the Picaro, just have to be more careful with it. So it's kind of like flying a Picaro with a vectored nozzle option, which is always fun as well too. So we do have a lot of different planes showing up over the next while. We've got the Krill Aries, of course, the large is mine, and I've got my 2.8 meter Lancer arriving as well too very soon. That's going to be fun. It's going to be a big airplane with vectored thrusts, and it's looking forward to it because those Lancers fly so well, so accurate. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to do a follow-up video with everybody and share my final thoughts and feelings on the Falcon and share my settings with you and kind of take the build series one step further. A lot of times we don't get the opportunity to do the follow-up video and all the little minor changes and stuff that we made during the first flights of an aircraft. So I find after 10 flights, you're probably getting fairly comfortable with an aircraft, and everything worked out really well to do the follow-up video. So happy to share that with you guys. Hopefully you got something out of this. If you have any questions or comments, list them down below. We are now the Chaw servo dealer here in Canada, so if you're interested in Chaw servos, reach out to me. We're just organizing our inventory coming up soon. I'll put a link to Flight Composite Tech's website. Send an email to Salim if you're interested in one of the bladders that he offers. Jewelry, absolutely jewelry. So happy to have this in this aircraft. So thank you, Salim, again as well. Appreciate you taking care of this and making sure we got the right setup in this aircraft. Makes me feel good. So thanks guys for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.